Hey, what's going on, peeps? I'm just about to test this out and see how this record function works. Um, just wanted to go over an article with you guys about an interesting thing that took place in Detroit. Hundreds gather for unveiling of Satanic Statue in Detroit by Nash Jenkins. A little before midnight on Saturday, a crowd of around 700 gathered in an old industrial warehouse a few blocks from the Detroit River for what they'd been told was the largest public satanic ceremony in history. Most of them professed to be adherents of Satanism, that loosely organized squad of the occult that defines itself as a religious group. Others that simply because they were curious. After all, Satanists exist in the popular psyche as those who casually sacrifice goats and impregnate Mia Farrow with Lucifer's child. If this ceremony was indeed unprecedentedly big, who knew this would be in store? The reality of the event and the contemporary satanic movement at large was tamer, and if the Facebook pictures speak the truth, harmlessly festive, a cross between an underground rave and a meticulously planned Halloween party. They were there to publicly unveil a colossal, bizarre statue of Baphamet, the goat-headed wraith who, after centuries of various appropriations, is now the totem of contemporary Satanism. The pentagram, that familiar logo of both Orthodox Satanists and disaffected teens, originated as a rough outline of Baphomet's head. The statue itself is impressive, almost 9 feet tall and weighing in at around a ton. The horned idol sits on a throne adorned with a pentagon, but is the idol's wings and not his chair that curiously invoke the Iron Throne from certain celebrated HBO fantasy series. He has the jarring horns of a virile ram, but the biceps of a guy who lifts 4 or 5 times a week. His legs, which are crossed, end not in feet, but in hooves. It might seem more menacing if not for the 2 bronze statue children standing on either side of him. A girl on his left and a boy on his right are both looking up at him earnestly. Baphomet contains binary elements symbolizing reconciliation of opposites, the emblematic willingness to embrace or even celebrate differences. Jex Blacksmore, who organized the unveiling, told Time late Saturday night, "In a sense, the statue is a stress test of American plurality. At what point does religious freedom make people uncomfortable?" Blackmore directs the Detroit chapter of the Satanic Temple, one of the few coherent organizations in a field that otherwise is disorganized and dogmatically nebulous. The Satanic Temple has chapters in Florida and Finland, in Italy, and Minneapolis. Its headquarters are in New York, but the Detroit office is its first and largest outpost. Blackmore, who by the way uses a pseudonym for safety reasons, grew up in the Detroit metropolitan area and returned to the city to work with the Satanic Temple after attending a lecture on Satanism at Harvard. Asked whether her group is a religious organization or rather an anti-religious organization, she explains that it's less of a church and more of an affinity group built around what she repeatedly refers to as satanic principles. It's not the dogma you might expect. To quote from the group's website, the Satanic Temple holds the basic premise that undue suffering is bad and that which reduces suffering is good. We do believe in symbolic evil. Most vitally, though, the group does not promote a belief in personal Satan. By their logic, Satan is an abstraction, or as Nancy Kafer wrote for the Daily Beast last year, a literary figure, not a deity. He stands for rationality, for skepticism, for speaking truth to power, even at great personal cost. Call it libertarian Gothic, maybe some darker permutation of Ayn Rand's crusade for free will. One witnessed in the Satanic Temple militia a certain knee-jerk reaction to encroachments upon personal liberties, especially when these encroachments come with a crucifix in hand. The Baphomet statue is the Satanic Temple's defiant retort du jour. We chose Baphamet because of its contemporary relation to the figure of Satan and find its symbolism to be appropriate if displayed alongside a monument representing another faith, Blackmore said. The monument she refers to is a 6-foot marble slab engraved with the Ten Commandments, controversially situated on the grounds of Oklahoma State Capitol. In 2012, State Representative Mike Ritzie fronted $10,000 out of his own pocket to have the marker installed in the shadow of the Capitol's dome, prompting the ire of those who believed it flagrantly violated the separation of church and state. The American Civil Liberties Union sued the state of Oklahoma. The Satanic Temple fought fire with fire. If Christmas could chisel their credo onto public property, the argument went, why couldn't they? The state didn't agree and rejected the Satanic Temple's petition to place Baphamet's statue on the legislative property. The point is now moot. Though a month ago, Oklahoma Supreme Court ruled that the Ten Commandments monument violated the state constitution, a judgment that will probably stick in spite of an obstinate governor. It seems that there are battles left to fight, though Detroit pastor described the unveiling of the statue as a welcome party for evil. A Catholic activism group in the city actively encouraged people to attend Mass at a local cathedral to speak out against the statue. Pray in, if you will. Meanwhile, Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson recently signed a bill that will put the Ten Commandments on a similar monument on the grounds of the state capitol in Little Rock. The Satanic Temple may be planning a road trip. And that's it. That's the end of this article. So we live in some strange times. Very strange times. You see things like this that you would have never seen 20 years ago. Although I will agree that the Baphamet is a very misunderstood figure, the open practice of Satanism is not really the key thing that you want to look at here, in my opinion. It is very important, and it is one of those things that you most definitely want to take a look at and you always want to pay attention to. But the thing that I find interesting is this article kind of gently alludes to the fact that one of the main symbolisms in the Baphamet is the fusion and the meshing together of opposites, which is one of the things that we can see in society today. Things that are traditionally looked at as polar opposites, or in some case, have polarity that's necessary for their existence, like gender, are kind of being washed away. And we're coming into this reality where everything is supposed to unify as one. And that unity and that opposite is what is one of the things that's represented by the symbolism that's included in the artwork that comprises of the Baphamet. So that's just something to think about when you see all these, you hear about all these agendas, you hear about all of these groups that have issues and different things that they want to do and how they want to change the government and how they want to change the laws and, you know, how they want certain rights for certain things and want to be able to have certain abilities. You just have to kind of sit back and you have to kind of think and you have to kind of wonder what's going on. Now, it's a larger principle. And anytime that there's a larger principle, anytime that there's a large agenda or a wide spanning strategic objective, smaller elements are going to be used to put those pins in position on the map in order to guide everything to the direction of the end game. Now, as it said in this article, this is a rollout and it's a test. It's like a stress test to see how people will tolerate this. There's many different things. These type of groups will do this, quote, devil advocacy type tactic to try to test and see how far they can go with religious freedoms. The organizations who want to reduce religious freedoms will sit back and watch and look at the backlash. And instead of utilizing and observing the good that come from, some religions or some ethical or moral guidelines, they'll look at this and use the conflict to reduce the rights of everybody who practices a religion. Now, see that Christianity and Satanism will battle back and forth. But the people who actually are running the world, who run the agendas, don't want anybody to be able to practice their religion, regardless of who they are. So they'll use these people who practice Satanism to suppress and put the focal point on the suppression of other religions, such as Christianity, while using the Satanists' point that they're not allowed to have the same rights. And then also taking the point of the Christians and saying that they shouldn't be allowed to publicly assemble, or they shouldn't be allowed to publicly practice their religion. Everything that's negative and everything that involves suppression of personal rights will be taken from that conflict and applied nationwide to continue in this rollout of suppression of speech, censorship, and suppression of personal rights. Gradually, these things happen gradually over time. So just watch. This was one of the first steps. You'll see more things like this happen. It'll get even crazier. So it's very interesting. We live in some very interesting times. And, the only thing that you can do is just kind of take care of yourself, take care of your family, and just try to learn as much as you can and increase your knowledge base and, just be ready for anything. So if you listened to this video all the way through, I appreciate it. Hopefully my YouTube videos and presentation will get better, and I will catch you later. Peace.